ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد أحبتي في الله، اللهم اجعل القرآن الكريم ربيع قلوبنا وجلاء همومنا وذهاب غمومنا وأحزاننا. My dear brothers and sisters, we continue with the themes of the Quran. As the Quran is very connected, you look at it as if it's one sentence, as if the subject in Surah Al-Fatiha and the predicate in Surah Al-Nas. Jumla. المبتدا في الفاتحة والخبر في الناس is very connected, and each verse lead to the other and each surah lead to the other. And as we explore the theme of Surah Al-Baqarah, that Allah is explaining the manhaj, this is the message that you should carry, and you are responsible for that message. And then Surah Al-Imran comes to teach us how we maintain ourselves on that manhaj. And what's the tools and what's the steps you should take. And then this surah, the following one, Surah An-Nisa, comes and tells us, in order to be successful, in order to fulfill all your duties, there is something that you have to keep in mind and put in consideration. You are not going to be successful, and you are not going to be leading nation until you maintain two qualities: justice and mercy. Surah An-Nisa, from the beginning to the end, almost there is no one ayah does not talk about one of those two and how they are connected. Adl wa Rahmah. And that's what we need. You cannot establish anything on earth without mercy and justice. And if the Ummah want to be successful and need a nation, has to apply justice in their land, in their laws, in their homes, and has to be attached with mercy. There is no existence for any ummah deal with dhulm, oppression. دولة الظلم ساعة ودولة العدل إلى قيام الساعة. Any nation that applies and practice oppression is going to have an end and short existence, and it's not going to last. And any ummah apply justice will be an example to the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant victory for the ummah that dealing with justice, even if that ummah and nation are not even are truthful or are people of Iman. Because justice is important. However, when you think the ummah mu'minah carrying the right teaching and applying justice, what's going to be? And look at that from the beginning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Allah is telling you, you are equal. You're being created from one soul, from one family. Why you are applying oppression? You are all related. You are all going back, the same source. So remind you that's the foundation of that we're all equal. Why there is discrimination, why there is racism, why there is favorism, why there is oppression and transgression. You are making that wrong toward yourself because that's your brother and sister. That's from the beginning. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded us about those are weak in the society. Because the ultimate level of justice, not to deal with justice with the one is equal to you. That you have to apply justice with the one he's powerful, he's strong, because if not, he's going to take his right by his hand. But the applying justice and being merciful for those are weak in the society. And the example of those are weak in the society, the orphans. Sometimes there is no guardian and no protector for them. And that's why Allah started with mentioning those are orphans. And guess what? Who followed that Allah talk about the right? Women. Yes. And this society, they try to empower women, but in the wrong way. Women in the society, actually, they are a sign. When you look at the situation of women, how they're going to be treated, do you know that society dealing with justice or not? And maybe that's one of the reasons that this surah named after An-Nisa. So if you want this value being practiced correctly, justice and mercy, what's your reference? Look at the women's situation, how being treated. You will know is there is justice and mercy in the society or not. We think there's justice in this society. But let the converts speak. 70% of those coming to Islam are women. And one of the main reasons because they feel that being humiliated and being mistreated and misused in this society. And they found Islamic system and Islamic rules that putting kind of protection for them unbelievable, that they feel being treated like queens. And they express that. They express their happiness of adopting Islam. So if you want to see in any society that the value of justice and mercy being applied or not, look at women, how are treated. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the rights of the woman. Even when we talk about marriages, and he said, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا. That's because you want to apply justice. That's why you are taking that steps. It doesn't mean that that's the only situation, but that's one of the main reasons. And then even talk about their mahar and dowry, and has to be given to them. And then Allah talk about, after that, when khiftum alla tuqsitu fil yatama, and then talk about yatama themselves do not take the right. And if you are taking something that's not yours, as if you are taking piece of hell. إن الذين يأكلون أموال اليتامى ظلما إنما يأكلون في بطونهم نارا. For those that are consuming the wealth of orphans, as if they are consuming hellfire in their stomach. To be careful with that. Then the ayat, if you are following with the ayat, talk about the mirath. Why is that? They know in Jahiliyyah, many of those tribes used to prevent women from their shares. Even till now, it still exists in some society. I know brothers, when the time they want to give their sister a piece of land, they said, oh, we have to give her her share. We are Muslims. So they give her a piece in the middle without even give her an aisle or a road to that one. Why? Because they said, okay, you and your children, they come to that land, but you cannot sell it. Because who's going to buy a land in the middle has no even aisle in it, unless he has a helicopter. SubhanAllah, still till today, they're not even giving them. In that time, in some tribes, they consider women as part of the inherited object. Can you imagine? So in the society that apply justice, looking even about the law of inheritance, and look at the women, how they are doing. Many times, fathers comes, he said, I didn't trust my boys, I didn't trust my children. They might not give in their sisters their right. Am I allowed to give them now in my life? Wallahi, they come. The society is still not treating women in justice. And then the ayat praising those following the boundaries of Allah. So there are boundaries you cannot cross. Because that were ta'addi, oppression, transgression. You pass the rules. وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Whoever that obey Allah and follow those boundaries, that's the one will be in Jannah. And then Allah talk about, how women are being treated. And said, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And do not enforce them against their will. And you have to cohabit and you have to deal with them in justice. And justice here does not mean do not oppress them. No. That's a minimum. That's a minimum. You have to be kind with them. You have to, forgive them. You have to find excuses for them. And it go on and on. Why is that? Because that's a strong covenant. مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. And not just, you women. Any woman in society, even those at that time, they were slaves. So even those they didn't have their full freedom. You still have to deal with them with injustice. Allah said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ مِنْكُمْ طَوْلًا أَنْ يَنْكِحَ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ فَمِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ مِنْ فَتِيَاتِكُمْ مُؤْمِنَاتِ. And then Allah talk about that. You have to deal with them in justice. Even those are not even free women, those under the authority of somebody, you have to be more careful in that. And Allah mentioned that clearly, why He put all of these rules. Allah made it clear. وَاللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنكُمْ وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Remind you that about justice and mercy. And Allah, the first one, He set that rules, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made that rules for Himself. Allah, the first one, established those rules. Justice and mercy is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah told us, you know what? Look at your situation, how you are doing business and trades. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. So you have to be justice in business and trade, and you have to be justice and not oppress each other. يا الذين آمنوا ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم. Do not even kill each other or or make it harder for each other. So slowly establishing those rules of justice and mercy. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order that justice to be applied, talk about qawama, which the balance. Sometimes people, you know what, they're not dealing with justice. You know, the balance is important. And give us how you treat even different types of women. It's not all are the same. And all that part of justice. And the ultimate justice, to give the right for those that deserve that right. And the ultimate justice in terms of dealing with Allah. Allah said, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ الْجَنبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. Look at that. Allah is teaching us where we should focus and who are those people that we have to keep the rights. And Allah said it clear, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَظْلِمُ النَّاسَ شَيْئًا. Allah will never wrong anyone, even the little things. And then the ayat is talking about important aspect. Even if you have animosity against anybody, you still have to deal with justice. Allah said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ. If somebody trusted you, you have to keep that trust, even if that person is not in line with you. And when you deal with people, deal with justice. And then the ayat going on and talking about after that about fighting. Somebody will say, you know, oh, fighting. Why is fighting about talk about justice? First of all, in order to apply justice, you need power. Without power, you cannot apply justice. Yes? الحق تثبته القوة. Yes? Is that to maintain justice and right, you need power. And also, in Islamic like fighting and war, it's not to oppress, no, to apply justice. And Allah said, وما لكم لا تقاتلون في سبيل الله والمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها. So why there is jihad? To apply justice, not the opposite. To lift oppression, not the other. Not to apply oppression. And then after that, the ayat talk about salah. And how you can shorten the salah, you know, at the time of the war, at the time of travel, you know. And why is that? Why Allah is talking about this in there? Oh, if Allah made it easier for you, even in terms of salah, sign of mercy, takhfif. Even in terms of salah, Allah expecting you to be merciful on even all other aspects. The salah, that's the most important connection. And Allah, you know, reduce the number of rak'at for you as a matter of making it easier for you. You should make it easier for yourself and others, all other aspects in life. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. And then moving on, you see the ayat almost in every ayah talk about justice. But look at this ayah. This ayah, in fact, it was translated and chosen as the ayah. They put it in the yes, Harvard is facing, and many other places of justice, as the important courts in the state, as one of the best statement they could find. They could not find something express justice like that one. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. Which ayah It's very powerful, asking us to apply justice, even against yourself or your relatives. And do not try to shift from that main aspect. And then ayah talk about munafiqeen, the surah. Why is that? Why is munafiqeen? Because those are hypocrites. Those people, they don't want justice to be applied. Those people, they make the corruption in society. Any society there are munafiqeen, corruption is there. Wallahi. So Allah talk to them, بشر المنافقين. بشر المنافقين بأن لهم عذابا أليما. And Allah give them clear warning. Ayat, it's a beautiful ayat about justice and mercy. And has to be applied even if there's a minority among you, do not oppress them. There are three of the Ansar, they gather against a non-Muslim in that society and accuse him that he has stealing something. And then they came to the Prophet and Allah revealed Quran about that. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ وَلَا تَكُنْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا. Yes. Do not do that. Even against those are minorities in your society. Be careful. This surah talk about justice in all aspects of life and mercy. And interesting thing is that last point I'd like to mention. I couldn't recall any other surah that Allah mentioned His names of Al-Alim and Al-Hakim and Al-Rahim and Al-Ghafur like this surah. You go like few ayats, Allah Aliman Hakima, Aliman Hakima, Azizan Hakima, Ghafur al-Rahima, Tawwab al-Rahima. It's amazing. It's amazing. It reminded us about the ilm, the knowledge, the wisdom of Allah, the mercy that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to trust Allah's rules as He's Alim and Hakim. And all of those rules apply justice. Nowadays, if you look, many of accusation to Islam about justice, where they couldn't see the justice. They accused the law of inheritance. They accused the laws of justice and punishment in Islam, and many other things. And actually, those rules, if you look deeply, those rules applying justice in a society. It's all of what they are saying, it's misconceptions, and they didn't trust Al-Alim, Al-Hakim, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, this surah teaching us that as a ummah, if we want to flourish, if a ummah as we're going to be the leading nation without applying justice and mercy, we're not going to go anywhere. As one of the most important values in Islam, justice and mercy. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us, the ability to apply justice and mercy first for ourselves, our families, our homes, and our society. Ameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.